to AmityCast. I'm Ellis.
And I'm tired.
Yeah, it's it's rather late. But it's time to discuss, as some people would put it.
Yes, sir.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely invigorating. Today we will be discussing the new Halloween Kills. Spoiler warning for the film.
Spoilers.
I don't think it. I mean, yeah, we'll get into it. But yeah, spoiler warning. We'll probably just continue on with our discussion from last week as well when we talked about the Halloween franchise. But yeah, Halloween Kills. We saw it opening night. Matthew, what was your thoughts on the film?
There was a little too much kills. A little bit too much Halloween festivities going on. The score was a little too John Carpenter-esque. It got a little annoying.
All right, we're moving on from this joke.
No, but I enjoyed it overall. It definitely has a lot of problems as a movie on its own. I think once the actual story is done, this movie will either be a lot better or a lot worse. My genuine thoughts on this movie really depends on Halloween Ends, but has its own thing. I enjoyed it for the most part. The biggest problem for me was the pacing, and we both agreed after it, I couldn't really tell which act was which. It just felt like an extended second act or continuation of the ending of 2018, and I can't really tell if that's a good or a bad thing, because I guess that's kind of what this movie was always going to be, but I don't know.
Yeah, it took me a while to process this movie, and I think it's very hard to judge, because how Halloween Ends turns out is definitely going to be much more of a dictator on this movie than I expected at first, but as its own, it definitely struggles to stand, I think. It's entertaining, and I enjoy it, as a Michael Myers fan. There were some good scenes in it. Overall, though, yeah, the pacing was terrible, and it was really bad. But it's not that isn't one of the biggest problems I've ever seen in a movie. Of course, overall the narrative is kind of wacky because of that. I really, from beginning to end, it just feels very incomplete. Which obviously it's a middle chapter, and yes, this is what it is, a middle chapter. But as its own thing, which is how it will also be judged. It had a lot of issues.
Yeah, I don't see any problem with it being kind of feeling incomplete, because of course it's the middle of a larger thing that's planned out. But even a lot of other middle chapters in a series or trilogy of movies still feels like it's on its own enough.
Right.
I mean, if you watch Empire Strikes Back, it's not that. If you just watch that, it feels incomplete without the other two. It just feels there's more that you need to see. This one, I mean, I guess you could watch it on its own and you could enjoy it, but how it starts and how it ends and everything in between, it's just you really need the other two movies for any of it to really work. And I can't really bash the movie for that, because I don't even know how it's gonna end. But as it does improve on some of the things I had problems with in 2018, with some of the new characters and some of the storyline and some of the questions I had. But this one also raises a lot of questions that I don't know how they're gonna exactly make it all work in the end. I do have faith though, and easily one of the best parts about this movie was the 12-15 minute flashback scene at the beginning. That was incredibly well done. I mean, of course, when you watched it, you knew it was filmed now, and it wasn't actually filmed back then, but it really felt like that. It had the feeling of it. The attention to detail was it was beyond incredible, and how they like brought Loomis even because it wasn't even CGI or like a deep fake or anything like that. It was just they just actually got somebody that looked exactly like him, and it looked really well done.
Yeah, I agree. That was some of my favorite moments in the film. Those like flashbacks. Obviously, as a big fan of the original, I think it was really well done. I really liked like what they added to the story and like showed like how like that night ended in this timeline. Um, and I just think that those scenes were just great, honestly. Bringing back Loomis was like really cool and like how they did it because they literally just found such a good lookalike and they really because they only needed him for like those couple scenes for establishing. It definitely worked out. I think I don't know how they got the voice to sound so similar, um,
I
but
believe
that was
they
really cool. I really enjoyed it.
I believe they said they got an actor and then they dubbed him over with like a guy who could sound like him, like a voice
That's
actor.
great.
But yeah, that was very well done, and it also they brought back the cop from the last movie, Hawkins, which I quite liked him in 2018, and I felt like his death was very abrupt in that movie and very last minute. And I'm glad they kind of went back on that, even though it kind of seemed like kind of a big leap in logic, because he definitely got stabbed like several times in the neck and then got ran over with a car. Um, so I don't know how he survived for that long to be found, but it was great to have him back, and it was nice to like have like that backstory with his character in the flashback that kind of went into the main narrative, and I feel like he's gonna be a very big character in the last movie, and yeah, he's definitely became one of my favorites of like the actual new characters they've introduced in this new like set of films.
Yeah. I think he has been really good. Really interesting.
He's a good
Cool to
actor.
see the different dynamics that they brought up between him and Michael, and just like him and Laurie as well. Um, it's kind of weird that they kind of like set that up with like him and like he and Laurie like having like a history.
Yeah, I guess they
Um,
kissed or something. I think that's what he said. I don't remember exactly what
yeah,
he said, but I don't know if they like fucked or something. Um, because he brought up Ben Tramer, which was just like kind of funny, but they haven't even
yeah, it was.
they still haven't said who even she was married to, and I'm still confused on that. I'm assuming they'll bring it up, but we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe Ben Tramer was her husband. Who knows? Like,
Was it Jimmy?
maybe they'll put more
Was
of
it
that, or maybe
Jimmy?
they'll just leave it ambiguous. But
This movie was also incredibly nostalgic filled. Even more so than the last one, I would say, because like they put in a bunch of little clips from like the first movie. They even have a clip from the second movie, which is erased in this timeline, which was very confusing as a big Halloween fantasy. I mean, I get why it was there because it made sense, but like it was just kind of like weird. And then like of course there's a lot of references to the other movies and even the ones they kind of wiped away. There's even a line where they say "Curse of Michael," which is kind of like a little bit on the nose, but
just that.
yeah. And what was I gonna say? They bring back a lot of characters from the original movie, which in this timeline it's kind of weird because like these characters like had a grand total of like maybe 5 minutes of interaction with Michael, and they're just like, yeah, I survived.
Yeah, it was kind of weird how like they had like a group of people who like everyone who like vaguely knew Michael from the first movie, like all had like a group that like went out on Halloween night. Like what?
Like I get Lindsay and Tommy because they were like friends and like it happened to them when they were children, so of course it would like still affect them. But then like there's the nurse who like got her car stolen from like the opening scene of like the first film like 40 years ago, and it's like, why are you
40 years ago.
here? They say 40 years ago is a lot. They also say evil dies tonight like five too many times, and then uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and then they also introduce well, they like reintroduce the bully kid from the first movie, Lonnie, and like they like add a little scene, I guess, where he like interacted with Michael, and I guess he's just like he just knows where Michael's going. He just has a map and he's just
Yeah.
tracking every single house, and it's just like okay. And then
It's just like, is it walking to his child at home? It's like, okay, well, that I don't know. That just seems a little weird.
yeah, and I mean that's fine, I guess. It makes sense enough. I mean, it was already kind of a stretch that they had Lori be like this 40 years of prep for something she never knew was going to happen or not. Um, and I do think the nostalgia was like pretty well handled. They also bring back Brackett, I guess. I always forget about that, but because he really just had like one scene at the end where he said a line he said 40 years ago that was just a throwaway line, but I guess now it's like really iconic or whatever. And
Yeah, it was a really nice callback, but it's also like completely unnecessary within like the story. Like,
because they
yeah,
also bring out that line in like H2O, and it's just like I don't. They're just trying to make every single quote from the original movie like this iconic thing, and like some of the quotes are literally just like, "It's Halloween night." Like,
yeah, it's a little off-putting because it seems kind of fan servicey, like kind of like reliant, like a little too reliant on the original film. But it also makes sense to me because like the original is like what started all of this. It is like why we are trying to create such a good continuation because like of what was established in that movie. But then it's also like, well, it's not necessary. It's just cool, which doesn't like really like elevate the movie in any way. It doesn't really drag it down. It's kind of like what like the Star Wars like sequel trilogy did, like a lot of like quotes and moments that are really just supposed to call back to the original trilogy. That's pretty much what every Star Wars movie since the original trilogy has done. So
yeah, yeah, that stuff gets annoying at a certain point. But I feel like in these like recent Halloween films, it's been fairly well done. It's much better than like the Rob Zombie movies where they just try so hard to get away from that it's just aggravating. This one, like it tries it is its own thing, but like it's still like it's definitely connected and definitely like respects and like tries its best to continue on from that first movie, even though it's just like it's so obvious that first movie it was never meant to be a series or a franchise or like anything like that. And
right, it was never to be. So
it was always a one-off, and like the biggest thing like with being a Halloween fan is like the longer Halloween fan you are, like the less and less movies you really accept, and you just become like a purist where it's just like okay, it's the first movie, and like anything after that I can take it or leave it. You just need that first movie, and these like 11 sequels aren't really needed in the slightest. But I still the best nostalgia was easily the flashbacks. Um, that's where like the film really shined when it came to referencing like the original film, and how they like kind of there wasn't like a lot of character development in this one because it's very much like just like it's very fast paced, but it also like slows down in like a lot of weird ways, and there's like a five
yeah,
minute there's
it
like a
seemed to have a lot of scenes that were just unnecessary. Honestly, like a lot of scenes that just made it feel longer, like in those moments, and then like it went back to like kind of like rushing through things. I don't know, but like
because like there's some of like these like absolutely like weird scenes like when you have the gay couple which they themselves are like this weird comedy act the whole time, and I don't think like they're terrible or anything. It's just it's very weird and it's very like it almost feels out of place at times, especially like when they keep calling out each other's names, but they keep calling each other like Big John and Little John for like 5 minutes until they just die, and then he just sees an intruder in his house and it's just like you came home, and it's just like what the fuck.
yeah, it's like he sees a masked guy in the house who you could assume just like killed his like significant other, and he's just like, oh, you came home, like dude, come on. And like also earlier in the movie, they're like trying to like scare these kids, like, oh, this used to be the Myers home, and it's like, what, like, why are these characters the way that they are? Is it supposed to be for comedy? Because if so, it's really not landing. I mean, Big John and Little John, really, like,
But it's
what was
funny.
the,
It's funny because Big John is the small one and Little John is the tall one.
dude? That is hilarious.
And then in contrast, you have these absolutely like brutal and like fucking dark ass scenes. Like that one scene with the old couple was like so fucking. It's probably like one of the most disturbing scenes like in the whole series. Um,
Yes,
it
for
was so
sure.
it was
That was
so messed up. and it's very easy that Michael Myers is the best character in this movie. All the other characters are pretty much secondary, and I don't know if that's really a
Yeah,
good thing or a bad thing because of
there's no
course
point.
the movie was like written that way. This was always intended to be like the one movie where Michael actually wins, and um, a lot of the characters are secondary. Like Laurie herself, like I get that like she was in the hospital the whole movie, it made sense, but it's just like she's literally like in a room for like 90% of this movie, and she's like
Yeah,
the
but
focal
it's
point
such a
of
back.
every trailer. It's just doesn't share one scene of Michael in this whole movie, which is fine, but it's just it feels really weird because like the last movie it was all about their confrontation, and this one it was kind of like I guess the town going after him, and and even like um, Karen and Allison almost seem to take a back seat in some ways. Like definitely in like the final act they take more of a front seat, but like they're also just kind of like there, and it's really hard to tell who the main character is outside of Michael Myers, who's just he's the antagonist, but he feels like the only really character that's like throughout the narrative consistently. Because I guess maybe Tommy is like the main character, but even he doesn't get much development, and it's just kind of like gathering people for a mob, and then they have the dumb subplot where it's like they find this random small Danny DeVito looking ass mental patient. It's like, oh, it's Michael. Let's make him kill himself. It's
Yeah, all pretty much every character just like didn't really seem to be important. Honestly, like they established like quite a few, and they brought back like a lot from 2018, like Julian or whatever that little kid, and like the couple that like there was like a quick joke about getting into their car, like they were like important characters early on. It was just kind of weird, and then like yeah, I guess like Tommy Doyle could be considered like the main character, like the protagonist, I guess.
well, he's
But like it's
I guess
also
if anything,
Lori, who knows just
he's just the one that moves the plot along the most because Laurie's in the hospital the whole time. Karen's just sitting around the whole time, and Allison like
yeah.
disappears and then comes back randomly when they're at the house, and then um,
Yeah, like Allison like has her arc like with her boyfriend again, which she's just like, oh, okay, fine. If you're gonna help, fine. I forgive you. But then it's like, okay, so
I
then
do
like that's happening.
they did redeem
Like
like
Lonnie's a
they did
character.
redeem his character, I guess, for me. At least like gave him some more actual story, which was nice.
Yeah,
And what was the other character? Well, they definitely made me like Laurie's daughter more. Karen, I didn't really. She was probably my least favorite out of like the three Strodes in the last movie, and this one I guess I liked her more. But then she dies at the end, which is like what I expected. It's what was leaked.
yeah. She was the one I expected to die. So
She was the death that was leaked like years ago when this movie was being like filmed still, and that's what ended up happening. So I'm not surprised.
yeah,
Apparently, we're getting an alternate ending, which is going to be like a bit longer. And from what I heard, the alternate ending sounds much better. But I believe they changed it because um, originally the script was like Halloween Ends was going to be like also takes place the same night. So literally, like all three movies would have taken place over the span of like 8 hours. But I guess they're changing it now, so like Halloween Ends takes place like 4 years later. So I guess they changed the ending a little bit, but I don't know how much it really
with
impacts
the
anything.
way they've set it up, I have no idea how they're gonna make that work. But I guess we'll just have to see it. But um, I because there's a scene in the trailer where like Laurie is like walking with a knife, which does not appear in the film. So like people are
That
expecting
was
this to be like
supposed
an
to
alternate
be
ending.
the original ending, I believe, because like how
Yeah,
Halloween 2018 ended, it like ended on that shot of that knife, and then I think how the director explained it is at the end of Kills would have like focused in on her holding the knife, so it would have been like kind of a neat transition between films, but then they just didn't do that because I guess they want to have a time jump, and if they show Laurie like going after Michael at the end of Kills, and then just 4 years later, it's gonna be like a bit weird. But I don't. I thought they could maybe work around that, but I don't know.
I don't know. It seems kind of weird to me all of that, but I mean it is what it is, I guess. Circling back to what like you were saying about like the like weird subplot with the with the guy, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's Michael," and it's like some short, like bald mental patient.
Who was in the last
Which
movie, like briefly.
Yeah, very very briefly, and it was just weird that everyone was just like, "Oh, that's Michael," and they were like chasing after him like hardcore. And then he died. Then everyone like felt bad, and then people were kind of like, "Well, was it Michael, or is there any way to tell that it wasn't Michael?" And it's like, "Wait, what is happening? This is not like how the characters would act. I don't think. Like what is this?"
Yeah, and a good point is like, how do these people not know what Michael looks like? Like, I get like he wears a mask and everything, but like he's been like under like government supervision and like in a mental ward for the last 40 years. There's definitely like a picture of him like released to the public.
Yeah, like there's no way that no one has any idea. It seems like Tommy Doyle would like at least know. Like he seems like he would look into it a little bit throughout the 40 years. Like I don't know. It, like yeah, I guess like I don't know because then Lori and Karen are the ones who are like, oh that's not him, and then like no one's listening. But then it's like it was just a really weird scene. It was a really weird moment, and it was like kind of like supposed to be like somber when he like jumped out the window and then died. Um, the way that was all handled was like really off-putting to me because like it was like oh this is kind of sad, but then he like hit the ground in such a like a brutal way.
And then
So
they
it
show
was
like the
like
gore, like it's supposed to be like impressive, and
yeah,
it's like I get the messaging. I don't think it's like a terrible message. It's just it's very weirdly inserted, and like I know that like it wasn't like a rewrite. I don't think, and it's just like it feels so weird and like last minute, and like I don't get how it fits into the
it feels very
narrative.
enough.
Because like I guess at the beginning of the film they say like there's still two mental patients like out in like Haddonfield, but they just assume the one that's like an old frail man begging for help is Michael Myers. Like it just if you look at like the build of the guy, it doesn't make any sense. At least like make the guy like look. If anything, they should have got like the guy that actually plays Michael. Just have him dress up in like a medical or like like an inmate like outfit and just have him as a person. I guess that would make more sense. I don't know. It doesn't make sense and it's weird and I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it'll work better for me on repeat viewings. From what I've heard, this movie is like a little bit better if you watch it um, again with like the right expectations. And yeah, I guess we'll see. But just like it feels so weird and like so like unneeded. And like a second act that already it just makes me feel like they didn't know what to do with the time that they had, like almost that this shouldn't have been a trilogy and that maybe they just wanted to make two movies, but like making a trilogy is more money and it just sounds better, but I don't know if they
Yeah,
really knew.
it just feels out of place. Like it really does. Like just pretty much everything in it, from like a lot of different plot points and set pieces. It's just all just kind of like okay, yeah, this is a middle chapter, and like that does like excuse it a bit, like for like people who are in it for the trilogy. But then it's like, well, like this doesn't like stand on its own enough to really justify being its own thing. Like it's entertaining, but like it has a lot of issues because of that. It just feels so like it feels like some moments kind of seem like fillery, like the just like you're just kind of there for like whatever, and then it's like oh a quickly rushed ending. This just seems like all like issues that like a movie that doesn't really need to exist would have. And like I'm not like upset with it, and I don't dislike it really by any means, but like it does have those issues
Oh
that
yeah,
really drag it down.
I really enjoyed watching this movie. It was a great experience, and I know like as a movie itself, it's not like amazing, but just seeing it in like an actual theater with like you and people that actually were excited to see the movie was like it was a great time. And this movie
Yeah, that
definitely
was
you can definitely tell that the people making this absolutely love um, this story and the score was amazing, pretty much on the same level as the last score, um, which is also amazing. And
yeah. The score was easily the best part. It's easily the
it's the
most
best part.
exceptional part
It's the
of the
best part about both these
first movie.
movies.
Yeah,
Even the original to an extent. Just the score is just so well done, and
the songs are incredible, and they match the scenes that they take place in perfectly. And
yeah,
it really
I don't know
elevates the
I don't know
scenes
if
a
you
lot.
have, but I've definitely like listened to it like quite a few times, like on my own, and just doing random stuff, and it's just
I've been listening to the soundtrack like every night. like pretty much it.
Yeah, I really there's not like one track I just like, and especially the flashback music where it's like it literally like sounds like the 1978 soundtrack, but like its own thing, and that's just like it's amazing that like John Carpenter and like his son and like I think it's his godson like who made the score like were able to go back and remake a piece of music 40 years ago that he himself made and like somehow make it sound better. And I don't know. I don't know how they do it really.
Yeah, it's incredible. They make it fresh, but it still feels like it still has that same feeling. So it has the nostalgia, but it's still fresh and it's new. And it's incredible. And yeah, the music, the
Yeah,
score,
the one thing
fantastic.
one
John
thing I did
still,
notice, at least in this one, I guess the music felt a little bit more like subdued, like in the background than the last one. But like once like I actually like heard it like just on its own, it's amazing. And there's not one
yeah, it's
track.
incredible.
There's not one track I
Just
dislike. Like there's not one.
yeah, I mean, John Carpenter obviously knows Michael Myers better than anybody else. So the way that the tracks can like really flow with a Michael Myers scene is just incredible, and it works really well. It was like noticeable in a good way. That's usually what you want a score to be in a movie. Like you can notice it, but like for positive reasons. You know, not to be like distracting or anything like that, but to actually flow with the scenes. Which I guess that kind of brings up that the visual direction wasn't bad. I think David Gordon Green, he really
He's a
you
good
can see
director,
that is a
and
lot of
he's a good director, and he knows how to film like this type of movies since he did the last one. And
right. Yeah.
it's clear like he has a vision, and I like how he'll like have Michael unmasked, but like you never really get like a clear shot. And like this movie gets a little close in some scenes where I feel like they almost showed a little too much. Like they have a whole like chase scene where like he is unmasked, and like it's like it's cool, but it's just like it feels like almost unnatural. And I guess that was probably kind of the point because of the scene it leads to, which the like the soundtrack for like the mob fight scene at the end was like amazing, um, on its own and in the
Yes.
movie, and that whole fight scene was like it was really cool. Um, there were some questionable decisions though. Like it seemed like nobody went for a headshot. Nobody. They all just kind of stopped. They're like, "Evil dies tonight." Okay, guys, back off. Okay, you beat him a little too much. Give him a second. And then like,
Yeah, it was ridiculous. They kept saying "Evil dies tonight" over and over, and then when they actually had the chance, they just kept like letting up. Like it was just I understand like the narrative like choices there, but like the way like they set it up is just like okay, well now you're like making really weird character decisions that like have to like get through like this like ending, which is supposed to be like very climactic, and like issues like that kind of like bring the climax down a bit.
yeah. Also, I don't know if you noticed this. I saw it like on Instagram, but I guess one of like the mob members, like the weapon they brought was a fucking iron. They brought an iron.
I used to.
Yeah, one person in the
I
back.
made it. I'm hockey stick when I saw the hockey stick, but like I didn't see an iron.
Yeah, I guess I'm assuming that was probably a joke, but just like in the film, but like only one person brought a gun, and like they decided to go like right next to his head to shoot, and it's like what? And they're definitely pushing it by the end of this movie. I think they're definitely like of course going to like make it more supernatural by the next movie, but like it when
Look,
they like
I
they
love.
when they first
And
like
I think he's.
what?
I love Michael Myers. And I think he's the ultimate slasher. But like when you have the scene where he's like struggling to like barely reach out and grab his knife, and then like a couple minutes later he's like getting up and like completely like demolishing like 4 or 5 people that are surrounding him. It's like okay, well like what? Like, you can't have it both ways.
Like I think it's cool that like right before that Laurie says like the more he kills, like the more unstoppable he gets, the more like unkillable he becomes. Like I think that's a cool like a way to establish that, but that's definitely like firmly stating that he's not exactly human. And it seemed like that was kind of what the original intention of these new movies were, was to kind of like put Michael back at square one where he is more human with like a supernatural edge. And because like of course in the first movie he just survives 6 shots to the chest, and like in this movie he definitely goes through a lot more of that, and it's just like you can't really just say in the next movie he's just a normal human, because he got like shot like so many times. He got stabbed, he got beat by like 30 people, and then he got like stabbed with a pitchfork through the back, and it's just like he got his fingers blown off. It's just he's 60 years old too, and it's just like, okay, he's not. You don't have to keep saying he's human. He's clearly not.
Yeah, I think that was all kind of ridiculous.
And
like
I like
it
the
was really cool.
ridiculous. I like how it got kind of like ridiculous and like over the top at the end. Like I like the mob scene. I like the confrontation at the Myers house, especially the boyfriend's death, Cameron's death. It was really brutal. It was probably the best kill.
Brutal.
It's probably the best kill of the movie.
And like, yeah, I do enjoy all that stuff as a Michael Myers fan. It's cool to see him like be brutal like that because that's how I always envisioned him as a child. So it's like,
It definitely makes him scary again. Like even what my mom said, she like one of the few things she said about this movie was like, when you watch like the original one, you just kind of like just run away. Just run away, you're fine. But like in these newer movies, he's much more of a threat and much more like menacing. And like they definitely have done that well, especially with the actor James Jude Courtney who plays him in these new movies, and he does an absolutely amazing job. Like I don't know why it took so long to get somebody that's actually like knows what they're doing, and he did amazing. They also had a different actor who played him in the flashback scenes, and he was also amazing. So I don't know. David Gordon Green's just good at directing the stuff. I don't know.
yeah, they found a really good formula to make Michael Myers himself work in these movies, and that's one of the primary positives, I think.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I really liked how he also escaped the fire, and like the firefighter scene was also really good. Because that's what fans are always wondering, like how would he get out? And I guess firefighters was the last thing I really expected, but it really made sense. And I really like how like the mask and like his costume looked like burnt. I thought it looked really well done. Even like when you saw him unmasked, you saw like half his face was burnt, which was also, it was like a really cool detail that like distinguished it enough from like, you know, like the 2018 look, but like it's still like it didn't look like it didn't look like Rob Zombie's like Halloween 2 mask, where it's just like, what even is this anymore?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's always cool because the mask is such a distinct part of the Myers character, and like you want to see like the mask kind of like show like wear and stuff like that. That kind of matches what's going on with Michael Myers as he goes, and all those like brutal scenes that I did like genuinely like very much so enjoy. I got it. Like the firefighter scene was incredible. The mob scene at the end, I loved it. They're kind of weird narrative wise, as I've been saying, but like I really enjoyed them though, and it was great. It's great to see Michael Myers actually personified as what he's like chopped up to be. You know, like Laurie calls him the essence of evil, truly evil, or whatever.
yeah. There's
And
one.
like,
It's kind of weird. One thing is like a lot of the characters get like these like Loomis like lines, and it's like a little weird because like some of these people are just normal people, and yeah. But there's a lot of good
yeah,
there's a lot of good lines about Michael, and there's like the whole thing with it gets brought up in the flashback, and then it's brought up again in like the final act or so, where like he stares at his sister's window, and like you never really know if he's like staring out of the town or if he's looking at himself. And like I feel like that's like a cool detail, like backstory wise, for the character that doesn't like give him motivation or actual like emotion. That isn't like, oh, he's in like a cult where he like fucks his niece, and it's just, yeah.
yeah. We don't need to talk about the curse of Michael Myers. But I think that is really cool. Just kind of like displaying Michael Myers as just like, and they also had like that guy was talking about like, hey, like it was in '78, and he was talking about when he was a kid, spending time with the young Michael Myers, and how he's just like always emotionless and just he's supposed to be just a blank slate of pretty much just evil, and like there isn't a true motivation behind it, and I think that's what's most terrifying. I think it really works, and it's worked in every good Halloween movie, all like 2 or 3 of them. But I gotta say, David Gordon Green, he has a solid visual direction. It really works with the style. It was definitely a sequel to 2018 visually. A lot of carryover with that, and it's solid. It stays visually interesting and compelling. The plot and the story couldn't really keep me engaged like the entire time. Like it required a bit more focus. But it wasn't like bad, really. I mean, it's mainly just issues with pacing and just like what is actually significant. Um, Overall, I mean, it has like all of those entertaining moments that we've talked about, and I think it has a really high enjoyment factor for Halloween fans. If like it doesn't really fit in with 2018 a lot, as far as like 2018 was very story based, and it was kind of like a slow burn similar to the original
Yeah, this
in
one's
some
more
ways.
like it's like the high octane middle chapter, which I think once the third movie's out and you kind of like watch these three movies in order, this one will be kind of like the breath of fresh air, where it's just like a movie about um, the kills really, and then have these two like bookend movies that are more story based that really like continue the story more, and this one's more like build up and just like giving the fans what they want for an hour and a half, and I think it works in that
And then also
aspect.
John Little John.
What?
I said, well, you said giving the fans what they want, and I said, and also Big John and Little John.
Yeah, there was a few. Um, Speaking of those characters, there was some actually good scenes, like when Michael was like testing out the knives and like that dead guy in front of like his wife who was slowly dying, and like he was just testing out the knives, and like it was weird because like you couldn't really tell why. Like it almost seemed like he was testing the knives to see which like went inside human flesh the best, and it's such a weird like creepy scene. And then there's also the scene with
Right.
Big John and Little John after he kills them. He like displays them as they are in like their like honeymoon photo, and it's like there's these weird like scenes where they show like Michael like having fun with his victims. It's really like it's always cool to see that because like it gives him enough character. And then when like
Yes.
he leaves Cameron and like he walks down the stairs and he realizes like, oh, this is like your boyfriend, let me just like snap his neck in front of you to fuck with you, and it's like that's like really cool. Like I love to see that type of stuff. um
Yeah, some of my favorite scenes have always been the ones that kind of like showcase like what actually goes on through Michael's head, like in subtle ways. Um, and those like examples that you gave are some of the best ones in this movie. Like just really hardcore stuff, and like what like is actually like for Michael Myers to be like himself. Um, I think it's really
it was
cool. I
like
find it's
that.
really interesting.
Yeah, like
Entertaining.
like another one I remember was in 2018 when like you finally see Michael and Laurie fight, and like you see like Michael, like you can tell, even though he's like a mask on and it's in the dark, you can tell like he's like taken back for a second, and like he recognizes Laurie, and like he's almost enjoying the moment. And yeah, they have a nice little scenes throughout both these movies that really give him a lot of character, but don't give him too much character like some of the other sequels and timelines do.
Right. He still just remains as that like as that just he's still supposed to be
Which I
an
yeah
emotionless antagonist, but like he's got those like little like glimpses of like being an actual person, which is so it's kind of crazy. It's why I enjoy the character so much. He's my favorite slasher for a reason. So
yeah, and they also brought back the season of the witch mass for like one scene, which was really it was they didn't need to do that because they did that in the last movie, and like I guess it was cool to see him again. And like it was actually pretty cool to see like Michael holding a silver shamrock mask. Like I guess I haven't really thought about that much, but like I never thought I would see that. Um,
I think that was actually really awesome.
Especially
Um,
since it's implied that he actually killed the child that was wearing it, which is just like Jesus.
yeah, it's hardcore. I mean, he's in these two movies in particular, 2018 and Kills. He's shown to be a very hardcore killer.
Except
And
with
that's just
babies, he doesn't like killing babies,
yeah. I mean, the
which
babies
I
are
love. I
safe.
love that scene too. That's probably one of my favorite scenes of showing like Michael Myers' character. Like he just killed this like old elderly lady, and then he just walks past the baby crib, and like he stops and like he thinks about it, but then he just walks away. And like I really love scenes like that when like they take the time to like show that. And
That's really enjoyable as well.
yeah, because it shows that he still has maybe a slight hint of humanity. And like I didn't think they would have him kill kids, but in these movies they definitely have, because he killed a kid in the last one, and he definitely killed a kid in this one. and yeah, um, and Michael's always been kind of portrayed as this kind of brutal character that kind of lurks in the shadows. Like in the first movie, he kills two dogs, which is just like you don't really see that with like Jason or like Michael. So, and then there's also that weird scene where like they go into the Myers house in like the flashback, and he's like, "There's a dead dog in here," and the guy's like, "Oh, what'd you say? I didn't hear you." And he's just like, it's fine.
That was so weird. Like, what was the point of like even having that back and forth? Like, that was so pointless. Like, pointless dialogue completely.
There's a big dialogue problem in this movie, I think, which there was in 2018 a little bit, but in this one it's a bit more noticeable. Um,
Yeah,
especially with
that was
the
one of my.
especially with like the subplot at the hospital, and then it's just
Right. Yeah,
some
that
of
was one of my
Tommy's
biggest
some of
faults in
Tommy's lines were
2018. Was
weird. Some of Tommy's lines
that
were weird
dialogue.
too, for sure.
Yeah. Also, we haven't talked about yet. Like, Anthony Michael Hall plays Tommy Doyle. Like, this.
Which they were gonna before they got him, they were gonna have Paul Rudd come back, which I couldn't have imagined Paul Rudd playing like this version of Tommy. Also, they would have just killed Paul Rudd at the end, but
Yeah, I find that it's not Paul Rudd, but I find it like
yeah, big
crazy that Anthony
John
Michael
Hughes
Hall.
actor is now Tommy Doyle in the Halloween movie. I don't know.
Yeah, like I've always pictured like Anthony Michael Hall has always been like the nerd from Breakfast Club for me. So like to see him as Tommy Doyle in a 40 years later
Which is
Halloween.
now the like the third or fourth different version of this random kid from the first movie 40 years ago on another timeline. But
40 years ago. Yeah, it's a little weird, but yeah, the dialogue is not very strong. In 2018, it was one of the bigger flaws, I think, and in this one, it's like a lot more glaring. Really weird like line deliveries. I don't think the performances are very bad. I mean, like Jamie Lee Curtis is solid as always. But like overall, like no one was really like too engaging in giving a performance. I don't think. I mean, I guess Anthony Michael Hall was fine, but he had some weird line deliveries and like I
yeah,
don't know.
also
All of that was just
I was kind of annoyed that they killed him. I thought he would have been a bigger part of the next movie as well. Um, and he kind of just died. And like they have the nice scene where like he's looking in Michael's eyes when he dies. But it's just kind of like I kind of would have liked to see him again because he doesn't really get any interactions of Laurie. Um, we never see like Lindsay or Brackett interact with Laurie, which was weird because they had a scene where Brackett like recognized that Laurie Strode was in the hospital and he was like, "Oh, Laurie," but then like nothing happens, and then um, because like they went out of the way to get like Charles Cyphers, who's like 85 and like is retired, to come back to this movie, and he had like 3 scenes, and he just dies.
yeah. It was
And
just kind of ridiculous. Just so many characters were really killed at the end. Like
I don't
I mean,
know
yeah,
who's left. It's just like
kills.
it's just Laurie and
But
it's just Laurie and Allison left really, and then Hawkins, and then like I know like the black sheriff's still alive, who was absolutely pointless in this movie. Um,
yeah, he really did nothing. He was just like, no, I am the law, and everyone was like, no, evil dies tonight, and he was like, okay, but
yeah, he just like sat on the stairwell like, oh shit, there's like 40 people dead, which there's a lot of kills in this movie. It was just implied in the title, and I'm pretty sure it's the most in a Halloween movie. I don't know if it's the most in like a slasher movie in general. I didn't count. I'm waiting on the kill count, but
yeah, the kill count's gonna be crucial.
yeah, I know it's like at least like 30 probably.
It's gotta be upwards of 30 because he coins 11 in the first like scene, so first
And
couple
then
scenes.
there's like at least like 15 in like the end mob scene probably, and then like kills like 10 throughout the movie, and then like probably like a bit more off screen. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait to figure out the final verdict on that. But the kills were good. They were pretty brutal,
There
like
was
we
that
talked
one.
about
There was
earlier.
that one good kill with the eyes. I think it was Big John.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah,
That was
that was insane. It was really cool.
yeah.
I gotta say, the one where like the like door got opened and it like flips like the gun around and like shot the person in the neck. That was so weird.
Like it was a cool thing to see, I guess. But it was just like It was also weird because she like just disappeared for like 30 seconds while her husband got like murdered. That was a good kill too, where like he stabbed him through like the face, and
Yeah.
then she just like, uh, I think she hits him. I don't know. It's kind of hard to miss him in a car, but then he just kind of like hits the door and then she's dead, and then then like the soundtrack
Yeah,
kind of swells like it's a big triumphant moment, and I'm just like, what the fuck just happened?
yeah, some of those didn't really feel like Halloween moments. They felt more like weird action movie moments, but whatever. I mean, it's fine. I mean, the kills were very good, and this is Halloween kills, and it was promised on that. And there's definitely a high body count, and there was some good gore. There were some good moments. So overall,
There was
I
even
think that is
there was
victory
one
or
there was one good attention to detail I noticed too, because like when in the flashback they have the cop get killed. The big thing was is like, oh, so Michael killed another person, but like in the last movie they specifically said he killed like 5 people. And then they actually bring up like a specific plot reason, and like they make it like, oh, he shot himself or whatever, and like it's just it's cool that they pay attention to that stuff and make sure like they don't like mess up their timeline. I'm glad they're not like messing up the timeline really of events, because even like minor details like in the last movie, in the mask there's like a there's like a stab mark in like the neck area because he got stabbed in the neck, and then like one of his eyes is like blind because he got stabbed in the eye, and then like you definitely see Michael take damage in these movies, which is like pretty cool to see, because in most of the sequels it's just kind of like each movie is just like in a new suit and a new mask, and that's it. I guess like after Halloween 2 they had like his hands burnt, and that was about it. He had his vision back somehow, and then yeah, but this one like you see like clear damage and like clear aging, and like it's really cool to see. Um,
so.
I'm
How many times has this man been shot by now? Like what?
in
Like
this timeline I don't know, because he got shot 6 times, and like he definitely got shot. He got shot in the shoulder in the last movie, and
yeah,
he got
and his fingers got shot off, which didn't really matter in this movie at all.
he also got shot in the face, and
Yeah.
he got shot like 6 or 7 times at the end of the movie by that one guy. He got stabbed with a pitchfork. He got like stabbed multiple times in like the stomach.
Yeah, he got stabbed like on his like upper spinal cord by Karen or something. Like where?
I thought she stabbed him in like the neck, but I think it's like his like back or something, and it's like, why did I just stab him in the head?
Yeah, like and then like it seems like they were going in for the kill, and he was like, "Oh, by the way, like I'm Superman."
And I took that personally. And
And I gotta say, it's a little weird. Like I get that like Tommy Doyle is very like inspiring with his speeches, but it's really weird that the entire town would just like turn on Michael when like it's like and everyone's like 40 years ago we destroyed the town, and it's like, well, 40 years ago we killed like a few people, and like yeah, it's like it's tragedy, but like why is it such a big deal to like all these people like 40 years later?
yeah, it definitely made more sense if like Halloween 2 was like still part of the canon. Like he killed like 20 people and like blew up a hospital, but like in the first movie he really just killed like a few babysitters and like a random uh, like maintenance worker, and that was about it. And then he got arrested,
Yeah.
because like they even have a line in the last movie where they're like, well, he killed like 4 people like 40 years ago. Is that really that scary compared to today's standards? And they're like, shut up. And it's just like, well, he does have a point.
It's like no, that's actually logical and rational.
Right.
It's just kind of weird.
And these like new
But like
movies, of course, like they show it better, but it's like for this town, they would really the only frame of reference is the original movie at this point in the story, and it's weird, it's messy. I don't know. I don't know
yeah,
how they
they
like.
had
I don't know how they
the
like
evil
put
guys.
this. I don't know how they like they rationalized it in their head when they were writing it, but like they did not like directly. They did not directly state that in either of these movies.
Right. It feels more just like for like fans of Halloween than like what would actually make sense in universe. But like, who knows? I mean,
Because like this is for sure the best timeline because John Carpenter approves it, but
absolutely. Yeah.
and he didn't
like
write the script drunk,
the
and
issue,
yeah,
for all the issues I've brought up, I definitely do not dislike this movie at all. I think I said that earlier, but it's just like I do want to make that clear. I do think it has issues, and I don't think it's actually very good as a movie. But like, I still enjoy it quite a bit, and I'm definitely happy it exists. I like the moments in it, and like I do enjoy it, and I will rewatch it, and like I definitely consider it a pretty good entry, at least in the series. So
Yeah, I definitely see myself coming back to this one a fair bit. At least probably around the Halloween season every year. I don't know, but and I'm very interested in how this ends. Which the next one's called Halloween
with
Ends.
Halloween, obviously.
Um, I don't know how exactly they're gonna end it, how they're gonna continue it, especially with time gap. Because it has been like confirmed now. That's gonna be like several years later, and I don't know because they really ramp things up in this movie, and I know they said the next one's gonna be a little bit more slower paced and like character driven and like an actual finale. So I'm like I've seen in some reviews because I have been watching a lot of like reviews and like opinions on this film because it's very diverse. Some people love this movie, some people absolutely hate this movie, and some people are just fine with it. But I think
And
pretty
it
much
seems to be overall like relatively panned from like film critics. And then some fans are very back and forth on it. It seems to have like a lot of like highs and lows. So I really don't know what the overall consensus is going to be. I think it'll change a lot once Halloween Ends comes out next year. But you know,
yeah, which I guess they're filming soon. Yeah, I think everybody, no matter your opinion, can agree that this is very incomplete. Very it needs the next story to really know if was worth our time or not, narrative wise. But I definitely enjoy this as like a slasher movie. Um, as like an actual movie, I'd probably give it a 5 if I'm being extremely generous. As like an actual like fan of the franchise or like like a horror movie slasher fan, this is probably like a 7. I'd probably say. I don't know. I think Halloween 2018 is a better movie, but I think this is a better like Halloween like slasher movie, and I feel like Ends is gonna be like the perfect mix. I really hope it is. I don't see how it wouldn't, but yeah, as long as we get like a trilogy where like you get like the really good movie, you get the really good slash movie, and they get like the really good mix that kind of concludes everything, and like
that would make me
all
that would
three of
make it
those
all
movies
worth it for
really
me.
respect the original and like continue it well enough. I'll be more than happy because I never really
Ominous still would.
imagined another trilogy coming out, especially another trilogy of actually solid movies. But
Yeah.
but yeah, because like I
I mean,
remember when
in
like
overall,
Halloween Returns was supposed to come out, and I was like, this movie's probably gonna suck, but like it's a new Halloween movie, I guess.
yeah, it's just like I mean, I guess I'll settle. Um, I think I settled on what I settled on was a 4 out of 10 as a movie. Which might be a bit generous because it does have quite a few issues, but I think a 4 out of 10 is fair. I still enjoy it, and it's definitely a top 5 movie in the franchise, maybe top 3. It's really not saying much for that to be something because there are a lot of bad movies in this franchise. I think obviously the original's way better, and then obviously 2018 I think is a better movie because I think 2018 is rather solid. Um,
Yeah, the thing is
it comes
too,
out.
when I walked out of 2018, like 3 years ago now, which was is really weird to think about, but it just I didn't love it on first viewing. It really grew on me over time, so I feel like this movie will probably do the same. And when Halloween Ends comes out, it will only add to that. So yeah, it feels really weird to review this movie because it doesn't feel like you really can review it. It's like any real trilogy, really. It's kind of hard to review it until you know the actual full story because this movie was never intended to just be like its own thing. Um, and I can at least appreciate that this didn't turn out like Halloween 5, where it's just like, yeah, it's like a sequel, but we're gonna like set up stuff that we have no idea where it's gonna go. This one at least seems like it knows where it's going, so I'm happy for that.
Yeah, that is something I can be thankful for.
Like the mask isn't like terrible. Yeah, so I mean, I would recommend this movie, especially if you're a fan. It's a good movie to watch around the Halloween season. Definitely see this over like Venom 2. This is miles better in every way, like every way. And then
Yeah, I don't know why anyone would ever choose to see Venom Let There Be Carnage over this one. Like, because Venom Let There Be Carnage is absolutely terrible. Like, that was really bad. But yes, if you're a Halloween fan, I recommend Halloween Kills. You might not like it, as it seems to be. It seems to be very
it's a divisive.
very 50-50.
Yeah.
But like, if you're a fan, I recommend it. Because I think there was a lot to love. There is a lot to dislike. I wouldn't really say hate, but there's some to dislike. But overall, it's a solid viewing. And if you like slasher movies and you don't care too much about how in depth it is or how cohesive it is, then I think this is definitely a solid viewing. I think it's a pretty good Halloween the Holiday movie, a good October movie for this year, especially with returning to theaters and all that stuff. So that's pretty much how I view it. It's definitely not a failure by any means, and it's
some people are calling it like an absolute like disappointment, failure, and it's like I don't see that really. I think the hype of it being like, you had to wait a year, but then like it got delayed for a full another year. I think there was a lot of expectations going into this one, and I think a lot of fans were kind of disappointed just because they like had this whole movie in their head and it didn't go exactly how they saw it, and you don't really know where it's gonna go, and it's a weird movie. It almost feels like filler in some aspects, but I feel like it has too much like love and like it has enough story and like creativity in it it isn't really filler. It's just kind of a weird middle chapter that really needs the other two movies to not make it watchable, but really make it worthwhile. And I think that's the big thing, is that we really just have to wait a year now to see how this whole narrative really goes overall.
Yeah, and I'm excited for that. I mean, Halloween Ends is clearly going to be very important. It's going to cap off this kind of trilogy and truly 4-film arc, and it's going to really show a lot about the first two films, especially Halloween Kills. So it's definitely it's very important, and I'm excited for it. I have high hopes for it. It looks like it's gonna have a lot of in-depth to say, I guess, even about like the pandemic and some other things.
Which I know a lot of fans are like kind of upset about that, which I think they're kind of misreading what he's saying. But I feel like they have John Carpenter there who like is like proofreading the script and like adding his notes, and like he's made several movies that had like a lot of social commentary and like it was done like really well. So I feel like as long as he has his hand in it somewhat, he'll make sure it's like not.
Stuff, there really isn't much reason to fret.
Yeah, and he's gonna score it again, and it'll be amazing. And you'll have another 20 tracks to listen to, and it'll be amazing. But yeah,
that's gonna be one of the most hype parts next October.
Yeah, it makes me almost want to go out and buy a record player and just like blast these like soundtracks on vinyl. But like that's a lot of money.
Best thing, Rampage followed by Unkillable.
Yeah, those are like probably the two best tracks. I like all of them. There's like a few specific ones, but I don't know. We can go on that later. But yeah.
Yeah, the revamped theme and all that.
Yeah,
really
like
solid.
did you like the pumpkin? Did you like the pumpkin like sequence in this one? I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I think it was pretty good because I think a big part of this movie was that it was supposed to be like the commentary that was there was supposed to be kind of on like generational trauma and how like these three different people that are all Strodes in this family have all been affected by Michael Myers in different ways in the past and in different ways in the present of the story. So having like all the different like jack-o'-lanterns that represent like the different members of the family and like everyone in the town as well.
And like they were also on fire at a certain point, which was just...
Yeah, like the last one on fire and a few other ones were too, which was like really cool. It's just I think it was a really good intro, especially after the really solid like opening with like the flashback and all that.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do for the next one. I feel like, I don't know, maybe like a rotting pumpkin. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe just like one pumpkin that's like rotting, or maybe something else. Who knows what they do with it? But they've been getting creative with it, so I'm excited.
Yeah, the 2018 one was weird because like I liked it, but like at first it was weird because I just saw like a pumpkin inflate, and I was like, that's not how pumpkins work.
Yeah, that made no sense to me the first time I saw it. I was like, wait, what? What?
Why not?
What?
But yeah,
Um, Overall, the score is very good. I think it's the best part. It has issues, but it has some good kills. It's a great slasher, I think. Overall, it's about a 4 out of 10. It's dragged down by not the best performances, some pretty bad dialogue, awful pacing, some other narrative issues and cohesiveness. But overall, it's an enjoyable, entertaining experience and good for any Michael Myers fan, in my opinion.
yeah, very solid. We'll definitely talk about this movie more at some point. Definitely next year once Ends comes out. I don't really see myself wanting more of this series afterwards. I know there probably will be, but as long as this trilogy's solid, whatever I get after this, we'll see. Um, but
Yeah,
I'm
I'm just hoping for this to conclude well, and then we'll just go from there. Is my mindset.
yeah, I don't know what I would even want at that point. But yeah, I'm still happy with how this story's going, even though I was a little disappointed with some aspects of this movie. But I think this movie will grow over
Yeah.
time, especially when we get an ending. But yeah, that's probably about all I have to say. Besides, it was pretty good.
I agree.
I mean, I'm not opposed to watching it again in theaters, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna end up having another viewing in the theater, and like we'll see how that affects my viewpoint of it.
Yeah, well, I
But yeah,
mean, we might be seeing it before next week's podcast. I think we're talking about Dune next week if we both end up seeing it.
does that release this week?
That comes out Friday, so
Really?
tomorrow.
That's already this ready?
Yeah, I think it's tomorrow.
Wow.
Um, I don't know if I'll end up seeing it in theaters because it's like 3 hours long. I might just watch it on HBO Max, maybe.
Yeah, I might doing the same. I was gonna say I can't do that, but I actually can. I want to see it in the theater, so we'll just have to see what happens with that.
I'm too busy right now, but and it's like a few days away, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know when I would be able to fit that in.
Oh, I think it's like 2 hours
I,
and 40 minutes or something like that, which is just um,
yeah,
it's like
I don't know if I could
almost
fit that
three
into
and
my
a half
schedule,
hours in a fucking movie theater. But
but
yeah,
yeah. Hopefully we can see Dune before next week and we can discuss it. I'm very excited for this movie. Not necessarily because I think it's going to be amazing. I think it could be, but I'm excited for many reasons. And once we discuss it, I can explain all of that. But yeah, that's what's coming up soon. And
do we
yeah,
have
thanks for
is there
listening.
anything else coming out like in the coming weeks? Oh, there's Eternals. Um, yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
if we don't manage to see Dune by this coming week, we could also just review it the week afterwards because I don't think Eternals comes out yet. But which that movie's also
Yeah,
like 3 hours long, which I don't know. I'll fit it in somehow. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, like I like longer movies, but like I don't know what like these movies. Like I guess Dune makes sense to be very long. I would expect Dune to be a long movie, but like what content is in Eternals? Like what's the plot?
I don't know. Apparently it's good. I don't know. But, and then doesn't Ghostbusters Afterlife come out pretty soon as well?
Yeah, that's around Thanksgiving, I
Because
believe.
we'll definitely cover that. We'll figure it out as the coming weeks come along. But
Yeah,
this
we got to get more of a schedule put together.
yeah, this is the
But
big horror movie this month. I don't know if there's any other ones really, but
yeah,
this
not that
movie's
I know of.
also this movie's also doing very well, which I'm very happy to see.
Yeah, it's been very successful, which is really nice. I mean, it definitely just it's gonna show a lot more reason for ends, and like it's gonna put a lot into ends, I think, and it shows a lot for horror movies, modern horror movies, which is good, and the return to theaters and everything. It's just good to see.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably leave it off at. But yeah, next week we'll see what we end up discussing.
next week, hopefully Dune. If not, you'll find out. But either way, thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoyed, consider subscribing and be sure to like and comment your thoughts down below. Yeah, Matthew, you have anything else to say?
Totally.
Totally.
Speed.
40 years ago.
Speed kills.
Speed ends.
But yeah, have a great night. It's very early morning right now for us, but thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Enjoy your selves. Be happy.